Hey everyone, it is Atia here at Booking It with Atia, and welcome back, or welcome if you're new to this video. We are going to be talking about all the books that I read the previous week. Yes, I am in a Snuggie because, well, I'm cold and I also needed to record this video, and I was not going to sacrifice my body heat for that. So here we are. So let's actually start with the books that I DNF'd. I DNF'd 3 volumes of, well, I DNF'd a volume of manga, a volume of manhwa, and a romance novel. So the first thing that I DNF'd this past week was Soul Eater Volume 1. I got to 10%. This just was not working for me. It felt like chaos incarnate, and I just was not following at all. It made me anxious, and I DNF'd it. And then I also DNF'd Villains Are Destined to Die, Volume 1 at 31%. And it was boring. The premise is so cool, but the execution in the first third of that first volume was so boring and so repetitive. And I couldn't do it. And then I finally, after a month of not picking this book up, decided to DNF When Life Gives You Lemons by Noor Sasha. I started this book, got to 21% a month ago, and then never picked it back up. And I haven't been called to pick it back up. I think the characters are so immature. The writing was not enough for me to want to muck through their immaturity. And so yeah, I decided that I would finally just DNF this book and send it back into the ether of Kindle Unlimited, and I feel much better. Now let's get into the books that I finished, starting with The Ancient Magus' Bride, volumes 11 through 13. I've been talking about this series for a few months now because I'm making my way through it, so I'm really enjoying the current arc that we're in right now. And I gave volume 11 3.5 stars, and I gave volumes 12 and 13 4 stars. This is a contemporary fantasy about a girl who becomes the apprentice to this ancient magical being who's also a mage, and it's also kind of a love story, but not really. Like, that's very low on the totem pole in terms of plot points, but I'm really enjoying it. And I read Coconut Drop Dead by Olivia Matthews. This is part of the Spice Isle Bakery series, and I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. This one was interesting, kept my attention. At the same time, it wasn't entirely believable. Like, there's a certain level of disbelief that you have to have with cozy mysteries, and in this one we have, is her name Maddie? Yeah, we have Maddie, and so she's solved 2 murders before. This is the 3rd one, and the lead investigator on this case is like, I know you're going to investigate anyway, so we might as well work together because you have an in the community and they're going to trust you more than they're going to trust me. There's also a little bit of a budding relationship between them. And so it was like, so you're really going to take her along on interviews with you? It just, I don't know, something about that just seemed really like, this doesn't seem legal. Like, this literally does not seem legal. It sounds like someone's gonna end up in court. Like, I don't know. But it was fun. It was a fun ride. I gave it 3.5 stars. Then we have volumes 8 and 9 of Blue Period. This is volume 9. I returned volume 8 to the library already. But this is a contemporary manga about a student, Yatora, who decides that he is going to give it his all and try to become an artist. We are in the 2nd arc in the series so far, where he's at university, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying all the different characters that we're coming into contact with. There's a lot more artist characters. They're all interesting. And I gave volume 8 3.5 stars and volume 9 4 stars. And let's get into some picture books that I read. And we'll circle back around to other stuff, but this is like a good section of picture books. So we have Magnolia Flower by Zora Neale Hurston, adapted by Ibram X. Kendi and illustrated by Lavis Wise. This is so cool because Magnolia Flower is actually a short story by Zora Neale Hurston, and Ibram X. Kendi is apparently going through her short stories and adapting them for children, which I found so cool. I did not know that this was a thing that was happening until I read this and read the author's note. And there's another one that's out that's I forget what it's called. I'll put the cover here. It's another picture book, but it's an adapted Zora Neale Hurston story. So this one follows a young girl called Magnolia Flower. She is the product of a previously enslaved Black person and a indigenous woman who is a survivor of the Trail of Tears. And it is her story coming into her own, finding her own love. And here is some artwork from Magnolia Flower. This is a full page spread. I'm also realizing that I really love Lavis Wise's artwork. They are also the same illustrator that did The People Remember, which I just really enjoyed that artwork. And it's just really sweet, and I really enjoyed it, and I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. Then we have a Song of Frutas by Marguerite Engel, illustrated by Sarah Palacios. And this is about a little girl who, when she goes to, she's Cuban American, when she goes back to Cuba, she likes helping her grandfather sell his fruit in the market, and you have a culture in which the different vendors sing songs to entice people to buy their wares, and I really enjoyed that. But look at that. And I gave A Song of Frutas 4 stars. Then we have The Book Itch, Freedom, Truth, and Harlem's Greatest Bookstore by Vonda Michaud Nelson, illustrated by R. Gregory Christie. This is actually based on a real bookstore in Harlem. It was called the National Memorial African Bookstore. It's no longer around, unfortunately, but it tells a very real, or it tells a reimagining from the perspective of the son of the owner of that bookstore. And I found it really cool, really interesting. I didn't know much about this bookstore, and it was nice seeing how much of a cultural impact it had in the community. And yeah, I just wish more people knew about it. Like, I'm a huge book nerd, and I had no clue that this was not a historical monument, but like it had such a presence and value in the community. And unfortunately it is no longer with us, but this is a full page spread, and the artwork in this one was really different. And so this page shows the owner of the bookstore here and his son having a conversation with Malcolm X, and I gave this one 5 stars. Then I read Just Like Me by Vanessa Brantley Newton. This has a collection of poetries that are all about just embracing being a girl, no matter what type of girl you are, and all the different interests and all the different family types and backgrounds and skin color and everything about that. And I just really loved this. And what I found really cool about this one, besides the fact that it's a bunch of poems, is that the artist is actually, like, she makes paper dolls, I believe, and so you get to see a little bit of that craft, how that inspired her artwork. And yeah, it was just the beauty of being a little girl and having girlhood and all that, and the diversity and variety within girlhood. And I gave this one 5 stars. Then we have a volume of manga. I read Asadora Volume 1 by Naoki Urasawa. This one, if you watched my, I forget which library haul it is, I think it might have been my most recent one, but I talked about how I always see this one in bookstores and I never know what it's about because there's no description anywhere. And so I finally took it out from the library. As I was reading this one, I was a little unsure like what the heck was going on, and then we got to the end and I was like, this just took a turn. So basically we have Asa, or Asa? I think Asa. We have Asa. She runs out on an errand for her parents because her mother is about to give birth, so she goes and gets the town's doctor. This takes place in 1959 is when we start. So she runs out to get the doctor, the town doctor, and she's like, go ahead of me, because like my mom like really needs you. She's about to go into labor like this second. So he goes. A typhoon, however, is hitting, and she ends up sheltering with this older gentleman who used to be a pilot. And when they emerge from this like cargo container after they take shelter, they see that their entire city is under water. And so it's a rescue effort that is ensuing, and there's just a community coming together. But then there's like a slight horror element to it that comes in at the very end, because what you think may have happened may not have been what actually happened. And so I'm very much looking forward to getting into volume 2, which I have checked out from the library, so that I can see like what actually happened during this typhoon. And I ended up giving Asador Volume 1 4 stars. Then I read The Ninja's Illusion by Gigi Pandian. This is number 5 in the Jaya Jones Treasure Hunt Cozy Mystery series, and this one follows Jaya as she goes to Japan. Her best friend Sanjay has ended up in a little bit of a predicament. He's working for this really famous Japanese magician who is known to be this miracle worker, and somehow right before they're about to open their big show, this magician ends up dead. And yeah, and so it involves trying to figure out like who killed him and why, and how does it have to do with the famous Indian rope trick which he was supposed to be able to perform. And I ended up giving this one 3.75 stars. Up we have Drum Dream Girl, How One Girl's Courage Changed Music. This is by Margarita Engel and Rafael Lopez, and this tells a story of a young girl who wants to play the drums, but that is not looked upon as being a feminine thing to do or an instrument that a woman would play, and she's constantly just battling against those stereotypes. This is actually based off of the real life story, inspired by a Chinese African Cuban girl who broke Cuba's traditional taboo against female drummers. And I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the artwork. It's just really peaceful artwork, like it just soothes the soul, and I love the use of colors as well. Here's another one, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next up we have When I Wrap My Hair by Shantae Grant and illustrated by Jen and Muhammad. This one talks about what a little girl feels when she is wrapping her hair, when her mother is wrapping her hair, and just the beauty of, you know, Black girls wrapping our hair and how that ties us back to our ancestry. And I found the poetry to be absolutely gorgeous along with the artwork. I mean, like, what? And here's another one. Look at that. Look at that. And I gave this one 4 stars. Next up we have I Promise, written by LeBron James and illustrated by Nina Mata. This one is actually inspired by LeBron James's school in Cleveland, I believe it is, and so, which is the like I Promise Academy or something like that. And it's basically a bunch of promises that little children can make to have a good day and have a good week and further themselves. And I really enjoyed this. This one truly made me smile as I was reading it. And so like one of the pages says, I promise to go to school and read as much as I can, to follow the rules and respect the game plan. And you have like, you know, a diverse selection of children. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it 5 stars. Then we have I Am My Ancestors' Wildest Dreams by Tanisha Moore and Robert Paul Jr. This is all about empowering little Black boys, and so it's filled with different Black male heroes. So we have Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther, Kobe Bryant, Thurgood Marshall, Charles Drew, and I don't know, I really enjoyed this one, and I appreciated the fact that you had a variety of heroes. And so you had civil rights, you had doctors, you had athletes, you had artists, and just a wide variety of black male heroes. And so if you have a little black boy at home, I would definitely recommend that you read this to him or gift it to him. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Then I finished the novel A Nearby Country Called Home by Salar Abdo. I absolutely loved this. This was a 5-star read for me, a surprise 5-star read, and I just really loved it. We follow Issa, and he lives in Iran. His brother was gay and is no longer with him. He had a tumultuous relationship with his father because of the way his father treated his brother. And so this is about Issa reconnecting with his late queer brother's queer friend group and all the different things that are at play with that, and just experiencing life. And Issa desperately wants to find love and have love, but it seems that like everyone else around him is having this love, and it is just an excellent exploration of toxic masculinity. It looks into the baffling complexities of toxic masculinity and its threats to homophobia, and I appreciate how introspective Issa is as a character, and he is well aware that he doesn't know everything and there's things that he just doesn't understand yet, but he's willing to learn and give himself the grace to learn. And I also loved Issa's dry humor. It added some brevity to otherwise heavy moments. Yeah, I absolutely thoroughly love this. It has to go back to the library, but I do plan on getting my own copy. I have a whole list of pages that I want to go back and annotate when I get my own copy, and yeah, I really love this. 5 stars. Highly recommend. Next up, we have Tales of the Celestial Kingdom by Su Lin Tan, illustrated by Kelly Chong. This is a collection of 9 stories from the world of the Daughter of the Moon Goddess duology, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I love Su Lin Tan's beautiful writing. Like, this woman can write. I will forever pick up whatever it is that she writes. Her writing is just, it feels like being enveloped in a warm, soft, comfortable hug, and the way that she fleshes out characters is great. And I appreciated how we got the perspective of other secondary characters from the duology, because the duology takes place from the perspective of Xingyin, and this has one story from that character, and I just really love this. I ended up giving the entire collection 4 stars, and it's just, it's great. Like, I don't know what else to say. I do highly recommend that you read the duology before you read this collection, because it takes place from before the duology but all the way through and after the end of the duology. And yeah, 4 stars. Next up, we have This Is a Rope, A Story from the Great Migration by Jacqueline Woodson and illustrated by James Ransom. This is a story about one girl's grandmother and how she came from the South, and it tells the story through this idea of this little rope that the grandmother found when she was a child and she was jumping rope, and eventually when she migrated up north to New York. And again, just the artwork was doing what it needed to do, and there's a real focus on family and family story, and I found it interesting to use the idea of this rope to kind of take us through that story. Like, that is the grounding element or the grounding item in this story, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next up, we have Mama's Sleeping Scarf by Noah Grace James, illustrated by Joelle Avellino. This tells the story of a little girl who really loves her mom's sleeping scarf, and so when the mom goes to work, the mom lets her have it for the day and just play with it, and you get to see the little girl just learning about shapes and colors and things using the sleeping scarf and interacting with her family, and it's just a really cute story. And it has a little bit of humor as well, because the little girl has this favorite stuffed animal, a bunny, and so the bunny talks, and she talks back to the bunny, and she's so just like flippant with this bunny stuffed animal, and I ended up giving this one 4.25 stars. Then we have Soul Food Sunday. This is about a little boy who won Soul Food Sunday. His grandmother lets him help prepare the dinner for Soul Food Sunday, and it's him learning how to make mac and cheese and collard greens and different things, and he even adds his own little touch at the end. And I found this really cool, and the artwork is just so distinct and so vibrant. And I loved that it was a little black boy who was excited and invited into the kitchen to help with the cooking. There we go. And it definitely has the chance of making you very, very hungry. And I gave this one 4 stars. Next up, we have Music is a Rainbow by Brian Collier. And this is about a young boy who, something happens with his mother, and it's just some dark things begin to happen, and he learns to appreciate and love music and find refuge in music. And the artwork in this one, this is the first page. I just really loved everything about this artwork, and I gave this 4.5 stars. Then the last book that I finished last week was Malika, Carnival Queen by Nadia L. Hone and Irene Luxbacher. This is about a little girl. She has a dream that a man comes and gives her fruit, and she tells her mother about this, and her mother tells her that that is actually her father who passed away. So the girl never got to actually meet him. He was a migrant worker, and so he was in, I believe, Canada, or something like that. Like the father left while the mother was still pregnant, but he always like sent letters home and things like that, and he passed unexpectedly, and so the girl never got to meet him. And it's all about her going up to where he used to work and meeting that community that knew and loved her father, and they are going to have a carnival festivities, and so she gets to be the carnival queen. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. The artwork just wasn't me. Like, it was good, but it wasn't like, wow, you know? But yeah, so that's what I finished. And then of course I made some progress in some things that I am still reading. So I started and am still listening to 3 Keys by Kelly Yang. I started The Imposition of Unnecessary Obstacles by Malka Older. I do expect to have this finished within this week that we're currently in, so you'll be hearing about that next week. I also started How the Boogeyman Became a Poet by Tony Keith Jr. This is another one that I am hoping to have done in the next week or so because it is part of a vlog project. Then I am still reading Why We Play with Fire by Giselle Reason. I don't know if I'll have this done by the end of the week. I don't know. Well, we'll see. It's possible. It's possible. And I am in the very beginning of We Are Dying Gods by C.M. Lockhart. So you probably won't hear about this until we are well into March. And I also started Sinful Vow by Asia Monique. That is it for what I made progress in. And so out of the 3 DNFs, 22 things finished, and the 6 books that I made progress in, I read a total of 1,987 pages and listened to a total of 11 hours and 38 minutes. So all in all, a pretty spectacular week. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a huge thumbs up. Comment down below what was your best read of last week. Make sure you are subscribed and to hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I release a new video. The link to all my socials is down below, as well as the link to my book club, my Etsy shop, my Pango bookshop, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Showing. I ain't living for the moment. I see what's mine and I want it. Hungry like a Pac-Man. I'm Bruce Wayne and Batman. I'm Naruto with a Hanzo. Got a sharp mind like I'm Einstein. Plus I'm copywriting, so it's all mine. Check it for me, I'm in the sky.